Hello and welcome again to another episode of the Constellateur webinar. My name is Tom Wittig and I will be again leading you through the webinar today and available for a live Q&A here in the webinar at the end. And also there will be an opportunity for an extended Q&A in the Facebook session that we will host between the webinars. The topic today is the third question, the second question actually in the series in renewal and innovation. And the question today is, what is really the issue? What we are covering today is the topic. It's one of the three areas. And I will provide an example and also two exercises along the way, and they are embedded in the three essential questions that we have started to explore in the previous webinars. So that's the topic for today, and feel free to ask questions at the end of the webinar. I'd be happy to answer them live here. Also, I would like to ask you to please rate, share and comment on the content, both live in the webinar, but of course, if you watch it later on YouTube, that will be highly appreciated, so that I know what kind of questions and topics are top of mind, and that we can cover these in the live series and in the replays, of course. Oftentimes, what we hear in the constellation seminars, when it's about renewal and innovation, and the topics are on different levels, for example, renewal and innovation in the organization, but also on the family level, partnership level, and of course on the individual level, as I have expanded in previous webinars. And the question often that I receive is, what should I do? I am stuck. I can't even say what is holding me back. I don't know where to move. Nothing seems to work out right now. And what is really the topic behind it? What is the recommendation? And then oftentimes what I hear from participants is a long explanation of, or they start to and try to give me a long explanation of what is really holding them back and what the real issue is. But in most cases, I'm purposefully cutting that short, and then we are taking a look at the real issue, what the underlying issue is, with the use of systemic constellations. And so that is the fundamental question. What is really the issue? Is it what we believe it is? Is it what our, let's say, our partner or in the business or in a relationship is really believing what it is? Or is there a deeper rooted issue that we need to better understand and to explore? The question really starts also within the context of the system. And this is something I would like to recap really briefly, because it's an important part of the overall consideration. We have to take a look at the entire system, everybody who is involved in that. So that's not only, let's say, myself, let's say in a given job role, or the owner of a business, but also the clients, the different departments of a business, the impacted people, etc. And likewise, when we are taking a look at the family systems or the relationships, there are also many more people that belong to us, who come with us in such a relationship, in a private relationship or at work, of course. And there is a time dimension. So without expanding too much further here, and I would like to refer you to the other episodes or even the meditation series. I think there's much more to explore here, but this is an important facet that we need to keep in mind and need to mention before we go into the topic here. So everything is connected and everything plays out within the context of the entire system. So, for example, an entire organization or an entire enterprise. The three essential questions that we explored in the various segments here are whom does it serve, who belongs to it, but also what is the issue really about? And that is really the front and center topic for our talk today. So here we ask the question, what is really the topic? What is it all about? And sometimes only on second sight, we figure out what is the real underlying issue behind all of this. And sometimes it takes a little bit of stepping back and a detour sometimes to figure out what is really driving this hidden dynamic that our client or the given person is struggling with. And so we also need to see the question, what is it about, in the context of the other two questions. So when we make the relation, or when we relate to the question who belongs to it, we are exploring the connectedness, if you want, the connection to the entire system. So we see the question in the context of the entire system, and we turn towards everybody who is part of this entire system without excluding anybody and without a judgment of whatever the person might do or might have done in the past. On the other side, when we look from this perspective on the question, whom does it serve? So what is the issue, and whom does it serve if we solve the issue? If we go forward, for example, with a specific topic of innovation and renewal, then we soon arrive at the question of purpose and meaning. So this is the other context that we are working in here. When we ask the question, what is really the issue? And if we solve the issue, does it really stand in the service of a very favorable purpose and a meaning which is serving many and not only one person? And that is really the topic. And once we have explored these questions, and sometimes even asking these questions during the seminars and during the session, brings already a lot of smiles to their faces, because then it sometimes feels like as if a bell is being rung, and the participant suddenly has an insight about this. But oftentimes we need to go a little bit deeper and figure out what is really going on. And so the question is, how can we really arrive at the real underlying issue and not even waste our time with superficial work, which is then not serving anybody and which is not rooted in the context of the entire system, because that would be actually a waste of time and energy, and maybe even a disrespect to the person and everybody who is involved in the system. So we really need to take this serious and find a good way in how to get to the root of things. And I would like to give an example from an earlier work in the area of systemic constellation. And the issue here was pretty much, in the starting point was pretty much also with a client who was unable to move forward, actually. And so the first thing that I did is I asked the question, and this is something that you can actually also do as an exercise to really ask the question when you're in this situation: are you moving towards less, or are you moving towards more? Or the feeling that you have, the impression and the image that you have about your movement, is it moving towards less and less, or is it moving towards more? Now, in this particular constellation, the person was moving slightly more towards less. So it oftentimes feels for the client that it is almost like a death spiral when you're moving towards less, and then you basically, the client was actually saying that was giving away a lot of things and not leading to anything significant. And it was a very difficult challenge to move forward and drive further renewal and further innovation in the specific situation, without expanding too much on what the specific personal situation was in this case. And this is something that we can also do as an exercise, even as an exercise to prepare for a certain movement, to go into, I would almost say, into a meditation where you can experience for yourself, what is your inner movement? Am I moving towards less, or am I moving towards more? Now, in the specific example here, we arrived soon after we started the work at a constellation, which also did not create any further movement. So there was no connection to the other players in the system, and not even the parents. But it was very apparent that the client, the person here, the green person on the left-hand side in the dark green suit, was looking down. And when we are doing this kind of systemic constellation, that is typically a sign that there is somebody, let's say a dead person, is somewhere in the family system. And so as a constellator, we always need to ask, okay, how can we resolve these kind of issues, and how can we untangle this situation so that a good solution can be found for everybody in the system. And obviously, the next thing that we then do is to put a representative there, exactly there on the spot where the person is looking. So here we have the green person, our client, was looking down, and we put a person in front of him, a little bit in a distance, so exactly at the spot where he was looking at. And this was a deceased family member, as it turns out, from what the client actually revealed during the constellation. And there was, in the beginning, there was no talk about it, so it's not something that we would have known, but it was a topic which was very top of mind, and very deeply felt also in the entire family. So as soon as this is coming to the surface, we typically find a solution fairly quickly. The question is then, of course, how the renewal can succeed. And the movement here in this place was, if we zoom in and we only pay attention to the two people, the two representatives, where clearly the energy is flowing. The movement unfolded by giving the deceased person a place and making sure that the person is seen and has a place in the family system. So it is regarded as a family member, if you want, even if there's a time dimension, and it might have been many years ago or decades ago. It is important to give everybody who belongs to a system a place in the system. Otherwise, it leads to entanglements. And oftentimes what we see is that somebody in the family, at a very different place in the family, is acting, let's say, for some people's taste, a little bit strange. And that's a typical indication that this representative is taking over a role and provides an insight about what is actually happening and what is going on. But as soon as we give a place to everybody, then they are being seen, and that is usually providing a big relief also in the family. Not immediately, but over a certain period of time, of course. And in this particular constellation on the day, it unfolded into a movement where the client was able to embrace and reach out to the new things, and reach out to more, and to everybody who was involved in the entire system. It was here part of a larger group and an organization. And that is the first step then moving forward into this movement of renewal and innovation, and towards more, and towards more love in the entire system, of course. Sometimes it feels that we stand so close in front of the issue that we can't even see it. It's almost like standing in front of a tree and you cannot see the entire forest. And the image that I would like to give to you, and you can experience this, of course, in your own mind or the next time you do a walk in nature. And it sometimes feels that when we are standing very close, let's say with our nose in front of something, we can hardly see what it is really about. It's a pattern. It has shades, but we cannot see the shape. We cannot see the entire context. But if we take just a little step back or several steps back, we already can see a certain shape. It still might be fuzzy, but we have an idea of what it is about. And we see not only more details, but we see the entire system, or maybe even the entire ecosystem, if you want, that our issue, that our topic is embedded in. And if we just step back a little bit further, we might see an even more complete picture. And then we get our insight already, what really it is all about and how it belongs all together, and what the complete picture might look like that we will experience if we step all the way back and allow ourselves to open up our gaze, to open up our view towards the entire system. And this is very similar in many situations, not only in nature, of course, when we take a walk, but also in our daily and personal life, that sometimes we are so close and in front, and we want to get even closer to an issue. We want to hug it, embrace it. We want to know everything about it. And yet it leads not even to more insights, but to less insight. And sometimes it could make things even worse if we are standing just in front of the wrong tree, almost. And so this is a good exercise sometimes to step back and to see the full picture and to get into resonance with the entire picture and enjoy the entire picture, and being present in the entire picture, being present in the system that we belong to, and have a view on everything and everybody that is a part of this picture and a part of the system. And so this is very much related to the question, what is really the topic? Because only if we open our gaze towards the entire system with everybody involved in it, and then we can see also the movements of the various parts of the picture, then it provides us an insight of what really is going on and how we are embedded in what our part is in the entire system. And oftentimes it leads to a very different set of questions, not immediately to the answers, but once we have the questions, they point us into the right direction. And it happens often that the constellations, the family or organizational constellations, play out over a longer period of time. And simply because it's not a movement of the rational mind which seeks to an immediate implementation, an immediate answer, but it's a slower movement of the spirit mind, which takes place over a longer period of time until all the pieces find their place and it's reconciled, of course. And of course, everything is in resonance, so it needs the time to play out. So from this episode, I would like to point you to a couple of insights and recap also the tools that you can apply in your own daily life, or even if you're working with systemic constellations, or if you're working as a helping person. I will come to that in a moment. But really keep in mind that everything and everybody is connected in this world. And the issues that we often see on the surface are rarely those issues that are really the underlying cause of a challenge or an issue or a topic. The entanglement can lead to a hidden dynamic. So we almost find ourselves like in a maze, in a labyrinth, where we cannot find out, and we're missing a certain dimension to see for ourselves what is happening. And we're drawn into this unfavorable movement often that leads us to a place where we don't really feel comfortable, and we can sense and experience that this is not our place in the system, or we sense it for somebody else that the person is not feeling comfortably in the system. When the real issue then becomes apparent, for example, through the work of systemic constellations, the solution and the way forward often reveal themselves in some kind of a magical way, and often in a healing movement for everybody in the system. And that's when we realize that we are moving in the direction which is right for us, and right for us in the system. The two exercises that I would like to recommend for you is, one is a mental exercise or meditation exercise where you can experience for yourself the move towards more or the move towards less. And sometimes we do this in the constellation seminars to just experience for ourselves, or even as a whole group, if the group is moving towards a more or towards a less. And this already surfaces an important insight for many participants. The other exercise, again, that I would like to highlight again is to once in a while step back and see the bigger picture as you currently see it. You might stand too close to an issue, which is almost limiting and clouding your view of the entire system and your role in the entire system. So these are the two main things that you can practically do in order to get into resonance. And for those of us who are advisors or helpers in a certain situation, and in the area of renewal and innovation, we have many helpers who want to help, let's say, the innovator to move forward. This could be consultants or investors or the so-called business angels or coaches, etc. I would highlight a couple of things. So first of all, the stated issue is rarely the issue that you will then see later on. And I would be very careful with very long explanations of the clients. This is usually leading to nothing. And so what I do mainly in these seminars is to ask the client to make really only a short statement that we can work with. And then, of course, to take a systemic perspective, not only to go after this specific issue. This is especially difficult for people who have a lot of the so-called subject matter expertise. So if you are a coach with let's say, a certain expertise and industry experience, it might be even harder to step away from that and to take a broader perspective and to take a look at the entire system, how it is tied together and how it might move and unfold. And then I suggest to just observe and conclude from the movements in the system. We call this the phenomenological approach, where we just go with the topics that reveal themselves and the entanglements and the relationships that reveal themselves throughout the constellation work. And it takes a certain attitude, of course, for the helper and for the advisor to work with that. This will be a special topic that I want to talk about in a different webinar, about the attitude of the helping person. And I think this is a really fundamental issue. And what you might want to do is to replace the old image with a new image. And pretty much as we step back in the exercise to see the complete picture, it is also important to provide a new image of the entire situation or of the way moving forward, because oftentimes we are trapped in the old images which governed our perception, which governed our thinking and action in the system. So it is important to actually replace these images with something that is more appropriate for the entire system and for the way moving forward. With image and working with these images are really important in order to ring a bell to the client who is coming to us, of course. Before we go into the live Q&A, I want to remind you that there is further information available. Just as one example, there's a series of the 3 essential meditations, which came out as a course, a mini course on the academy.wittigonia.com. You can find it there. You can find it also on Udemy. And there's a small booklet companion about this with the printed version of the meditations, which I would also recommend to you. And of course, you're always welcome to attend our live webinars and of course the live seminars where I'm working with clients on real world cases and very personal cases or organizational topics. So feel free to reach out and let us know. Keep in touch on the YouTube channel and put yourself on the mailing list so you will get information about the upcoming topics. And if you want to host a specific webinar, or you want to suggest a topic or suggest a seminar location for future, please feel free to reach out to us via constellations@wittigonia.net. I will be taking now a couple of questions here in the live webinar, and as always, you can follow up on the Facebook group. That's facebook.com/Constellateur, and there's an opportunity to submit more questions, and sometimes the community is also chiming in on that, of course. Okay, so let me check what questions here we have. There's one question from Roberta, and she is asking, you talked about another exercise in another webinar series, which was about the rank, where you ask the person to look at all the different members of the family. How is this related to this question here? That's actually a good point. It was a specific exercise I provided in the one of the previous webinars. And basically what we explored is the orders that are inherent in any system, such an organization, for example. And so for those who have not yet seen the webinar, the exercise was that we basically, like, we put people in a ranking order in a row, for example, those who were there first, then who came in second, etc. And then the person or the client is moving from person to person and really takes the time to look at the person completely. And this is also a very important awareness exercise to improve the awareness and the feeling and experience the sessions, or experience the orders, of course, and the sometimes the entanglements that happen within the orders. It is specific to the question that we explored, but also related to what we are discussing here, because of course the entanglements come from violating certain inherent orders or inherent principles which are embedded in the system. In another webinar, I will go more into detail about different forms of these principles, but it's actually a much better experience if you experience that doing a live seminar, of course. But the exercises, of course, you can do in different settings, of course, and it might be actually very helpful also to do the awareness exercise in the context of this question, what is really the topic? Because sometimes what we find is, if we go from person to person, even in our own mind, we stop at a certain person and we are almost fascinated, and our attention is being grabbed by this particular person who might represent something very important in the system. So again, if you have some work and experience in the area, I would encourage you to share it also with the group and the community here. Okay, then there's a question about what is the, you said there are 3 questions. What is the third question? The third question that we will yet have to cover is about serving, to put it in a nutshell. And the question there is, whom does it serve what we are doing? And this is a very far-reaching question that I would like to cover in a separate webinar, but they are all connected to each other. And I often found that by asking these 3 questions in the context, we come to different facets of the same picture. So I would definitely encourage you to look into the 3 questions, of course, not all at once, but maybe from different perspectives. So you take different steps at the system. Then there's a question about where can we find information about the seminars. I think I did not mention that, but if you go to constellation.wittigonia.net, also this will be an information which is provided then in the replay on YouTube or the webinar replay. So there you can find the URL. Actually, I believe we have it here. Yes, it's here on the last slide, so I will leave that here as well. Okay. There's a question here, a somewhat personal question. I am contemplating a career move, but I am not sure this is the right thing for me, because I would have to leave the organization which I was working in for a long period of time. Interesting topic, actually. I just, in the last few days, I had several people reaching out to me and asking fairly similar question. And there seems to be a magic time for many people when they have been in an organization somewhere around 13 to 15 years. And then this question often comes up. Some people even longer, or they have to move from an existing organization. But the 13, 15-year mark seems to be an important one. And the question there is, of course, it's a very a question which has to be taken in the context of every different situation. But oftentimes what we find in the moment when we are already asking the question, the movement is already unfolding. And oftentimes, before we know it, then we are already, at least mentally, on our way into a new chapter in life. The question is always, are we prepared to make that decision? Are we prepared to make this step forward and leave our circle of what we know, the circle of comfort oftentimes, and to move forward? There are certain ways to work on that, of course, in the settings of family constellations. We also sometimes do, let's say, constellations in the context of decisions, where we find out, okay, which way to go is feeling more appropriate and is more in tune with our, let's say, personal beliefs, but also the personal system that we represent and that we act in. So highly recommend to look into that. Again, there's not, unfortunately, not a recipe which is working for everybody, but if it's an important step in life, I think you may want to take the time to explore that really carefully. And it's often not the excitement for the new things moving forward, but oftentimes something that is staying with us over a longer period of time is everything that was in the past. So it's equally important to let the past conclude in a certain way and in a certain movement, so that we can confidently and comfortably say, also with our inner voice, yes, it is over, and I can move forward. I can look back with love with what I have created, or what I have given, what I have contributed, and now is a good time for me to step forward into a new chapter, whatever it might bring for us or bring for me moving forward. Okay, yes, so there's just one practical question. When is the next webinar? Again, I would recommend that you sign up to the list or check out the website. And there you will see the next announcements. There's one question here. I have a fairly personal topic. How should I go about this? Can I resolve this on my own, or should I work with a constellation facilitator? Of course, you are welcome to attend a live webinar or reach out for personal consultation. When you are working with a constellation facilitator, you may want to make sure that the person has, let's say, a certain experience with this kind of work. This work with systemic constellation comes with a very important responsibility, of course, and it's important to work with somebody who has, let's say, not only the foundation and education in this area, but also an experience in working with your specific topic, of course. So, having said that, I think that concludes the webinar for today. And if you have further questions, again, feel free to reach out. And otherwise, I will see you next time in the new episode. And until then, I wish you all the best and good luck with your special topic of renewal and innovation. Be well and goodbye.